Okay, good morning everyone. I'm Eric Jones, E-R-I-C, Jones, J-O-N-E-S, Police Chief for Stockton Police Department. With me is Ron Freitas, Supervisor for the District Attorney's Office, San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office. I'm going to first go over a summary narrative of what occurred. Then I will be releasing some of the suspect information. And please know that I won't be able to give all of the details because, number one, we may not have them yet. Number two, it is an active, ongoing investigation. Although I'm thankful that none of our officers, none of our law enforcement staff were injured during this incident, and although I'm very thankful that not more hostages were taken or harmed, which was a very significant concern for us, my heart definitely does go out to the family of the deceased hostage from yesterday's incident. At 2:11 p.m. on Wednesday, July 16th, yesterday, Stockton Police Department received a report of a robbery in progress at the Bank of the West, which is located in the 7800 block of Thornton Road. Three adult males armed with firearms were inside. Officers were immediately dispatched, and the first unit arrived at 2:12 p.m., so that's about 1 minute later. Officers could see inside, and they verified that there was in fact a robbery in progress. One of the suspects was seen heading toward the door with a hostage, but then went back inside. Our crisis negotiations team, which are our hostage negotiators, were requested within minutes, but the three heavily armed suspects exited the bank with 2 employees and 1 customer of the bank as hostages. They used them as shields during a tense standoff, and then they got into a vehicle. The 3 armed suspects and the hostages got into one of the hostages' vehicles, which was a Ford Explorer. They then fled northbound on Thornton with Stockton Police Department units in pursuit. A moment later, one hostage, a bank employee, was shot by one of the suspects and was thrown, or she jumped, from the fleeing vehicle. The suspects continued the pursuit through Lodi and Acampo on freeways and surface streets and back to and through North Stockton. Primary routes that they were on were Highway 99, Murata, Interstate 5, Hammer Lane, and they went through a lot of other smaller surface streets as well. At one moment, a police commander was in his unmarked vehicle at Murata Lane and Highway 99 off-ramp when he saw the suspect vehicle take the exit and stop and lie in wait while one of the suspects pointed an assault rifle pointed at the officers who we believe were about to be ambushed. Our officer fired several rounds at the suspect vehicle, causing the suspects to flee again after they too again opened fire. The pursuit continued through Stockton. All the while, during the entire pursuit, numerous gunshots were being fired at pursuing officers. Our officers took numerous rounds during the 1-hour vehicle chase. It appears that most of the rounds were coming from the assault rifle, possibly some of the other guns that were also located in the vehicle, with officers returning fire several times at key times when they had vantage points. Our officers were in constant danger, but continued to pursue because they had a duty to not allow the suspects to get away, due to the risks to the hostages, but also the fear that additional hostages could be taken or killed, or additional businesses or homes to be taken over by these very violent assailants. During the vehicle chase, Stockton police officers and members of the California Highway Patrol were under, as I mentioned, constant fire. 14 police vehicles were struck by gunfire, disabling many of our patrol cars, even disabling our armored vehicle. Also, numerous residences and uninvolved civilian vehicles were struck by the gunfire from the assailants. There was serious risk to the officers and the community all the time. At 3:15 p.m., a second hostage, again, either was thrown or jumped from the fleeing vehicle, and that was at the intersection of Don and Portola. The suspect vehicle was eventually disabled and stopped on Thornton Road at Otto. The suspects continued firing at officers who returned fire until the gunfire from the suspects stopped. The officers were presented with an extremely intense and difficult situation, as this was a busy residential area with possibilities of bystanders being shot or also taken hostage, and the officers were being fired upon, many nearly being struck numerous times. Preliminary indications are that the surviving gunman used the final hostage as a shield. At the conclusion of the event, 2 suspects were killed, 1 survived. The civilian in the vehicle also was unfortunately killed. We do not yet know exactly when she was killed or struck by gunfire, nor do we know by whom. The investigation will reveal that over time. Again, my deep condolences go to the family. All of us at the police department are deeply saddened. The fact that these 3 violent gunmen put our community at such jeopardy is deplorable. The fact that they attempted to kill our officers and put the hostages and the community at harm is beyond comprehension. The gunmen had not the slightest intent of a peaceful resolution, as they continued to cause continued mayhem and havoc. Every minute the incident continued, the stakes rose intensely for our officers and our entire community. The pursuit lasted over 1 hour, and though many officers were shot at, none were injured. This is now a joint investigation between the Stockton Police Department, San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office, San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office, as part of our protocol investigation for incidents like these, as well as a joint investigation between Stockton Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigations because of the federal crimes, specifically bank robbery. I'll go over now the suspect weapons that were recovered. Weapons recovered so far have been an AK-47 type assault rifle, a .45 caliber Glock handgun, a .45 caliber Ruger handgun, and a 9mm Ruger handgun. The assailants had massive amounts of ammunition, some with magazines taped or strapped to their bodies during this event. I'd like to now discuss the suspect information. One is a deceased suspect. He is a Hispanic male, age 30, from Stockton, a documented Norteño gang member with prior arrests for narcotics and firearms violations. He was the driver of the vehicle leading officers on this pursuit. The second deceased suspect is a Hispanic male, age 27, also of Stockton, and also a documented Norteño gang member with prior arrests for narcotics and domestic violence. He was a passenger in the rear compartment of the vehicle leading officers on the pursuit. He was the one primarily firing with the assault rifle. The third and surviving suspect is Jaime Ramos, R-A-M-O-S, Hispanic male, age 19, of Stockton. He has been an associate of known gang members, the Norteño Street Gang. He was a rear seat passenger of the vehicle leading officers on the pursuit. The investigation has now revealed he was uninjured in the gunfire exchange with officers at the culmination of the pursuit, as he apparently used the hostage as a shield. He was taken into custody at the scene. He was subsequently booked into jail and charged for homicide, kidnapping, robbery, and attempted homicide of police officers. We continue to look into whether these suspects have involvement in other similar robberies and bank robberies. I'd like to again remind everyone this is still an ongoing multi-agency investigation. I want to thank the other law enforcement agencies that helped during the incident, as well as now during the investigation. I believe our police officers, our police staff, including our dispatchers, were professional and poised during this very chaotic event. In my over 2 decades of law enforcement, I have never seen or experienced this type of total disregard for human life, nor the intensity of the situation that our officers were faced with. It is very rare for bank robbers to take hostages. It is very rare for them to so heavily arm themselves and prepare to kill, and then to actively and continually to try to kill our police officers. That concludes the information I'm prepared to give at this time. I will take a few questions.
Chief, Tony Lopez with CBS 13 News. I know you can't get into any details, but could you talk about the protocol of returning fire when you're being fired upon, knowing there is a hostage in that said vehicle or building?
The basic protocol for an officer firing their weapon is in defense of their own life and defense of others. Now we have to remember, although there were hostages in the vehicle, these suspects at some point had to be stopped because of the fear of the continued attempt killing of police officers and others wherever they were driving, taking more hostages. The situation could have exasperated and become worse and worse and worse. So it just goes to show the very, very difficult job that the police officers have to do, making split-second decisions on what to do and when to do it, knowing that there could be or are hostages in the vehicle, but also knowing they will do more damage and kill more people is always a possibility. It really shows the very difficult job of law enforcement officers.
14 patrol cars, hundreds of rounds. Can you talk about how close some of those rounds came to hitting your officers? Because it looks like they came pretty close.
Very close. In fact, it is frankly amazing that none of our police officers were hit. We're talking within inches in some cases, as well as rounds hitting other houses, other cars, other people walking down the street. They were driving during a very busy time, down busy highways, down busy surface streets. So again, although I'm deeply saddened by the one hostage that was killed, I am at least thankful that others were not killed.
Chief Melinda from KCRA. Thank you, Chief. Let's talk about gangs a little bit. There was a gang sweep just last week. Do we know about these suspects? Were they targeted?
I don't have the specific information or background on these specific suspects. I'll talk a little bit about the Norteño Street Gang. It's definitely been one of our targets. It has been a problem gang for the city of Stockton. Many of you are aware of our Operation Ceasefire, where we work collaboratively with the District Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office, our other law enforcement neighbors, as well as our federal agencies. This Norteño Street Gang has hit our radar as far as Operation Ceasefire. They have more than hit our radar now, I'll tell you that.
Chief, how much money was taken from the bank?
Chief, what has Ramos said to your people about what they were thinking yesterday and what their goal was?
I'm unable to discuss anything about any statements that may or may not have been given by the suspects.
What do you think they were up to? What was their final goal?
The only thing I'm able to talk about is clearly it was a bank robbery that was completed, hostage taking was completed, and I believe that there definitely was a goal of killing other people, including our police officers, based on the havoc that they were doing that day. And if you just look at some of the photos of the rounds that our patrol cars hit, they were attempting to kill police officers.
So did they go into the bank intending to take hostages, or did something go wrong?
That I don't have enough information.
Chief, how much money was taken, and about the 3 hostages, specifically the woman who was killed, how did that happen? Did she just happen to cross paths as she was coming in, not knowing that there was a bank robbery taking place at that moment, literally crossing paths?
So the amount of money, it's too much of an ongoing investigation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, so we're not able to give that information. I can confirm that money was taken. Regarding the hostage takeover of the bank, the security guard was tied up, so when these assailants went into the bank armed with this weaponry, ultimately I do not know if they anticipated the police officers' arrival so swiftly, but they definitely exited with 3 hostages, and the moment became very tense and very serious from that moment forward.
Chief, are these the same guys that hit January?
Pulled off, the suspect vehicle kind of pulled off to the side, and we know that you guys were able to see one of the guys getting ready to try to shoot at officers. What could have been done? Could anything else have been done to prevent them from going any further?
So there were actually several incidents where the vehicle either slowed or stopped around corners so they could ambush officers coming around the corner. That was clearly their intent. And so it is my opinion that our staff did everything they could based on that ongoing, flexible, fluid incident. Example, the one I gave you there at 99 in Murata, that police commander who was in there, his unmarked vehicle, took the shots right then and there at that assailant as he was leaning over the back of that vehicle. But then the vehicle proceeded on again. And also at that point, we have determined that some shots were fired by the assailants with the assault rifle too. So this was a very difficult situation because it was mobile. It was not a contained scene, and making it very difficult. I could take 2 more.
Chief, how many officers returned fire, and what will be protocol for paid administrative leave and investigating those officers who did return fire?
And how many?
So I don't have the number right now. We do have multiple officers on paid administrative leave, which is protocol for this type of investigation. So there were a significant amount of officers that returned fire at some point during this entire scene. If you will, this scene really covered a big portion of San Joaquin County, from Stockton up through Lodi to Ocampo, back to Stockton. And the assailants were shooting really the entire time.
In follow-up to that, how will you keep the streets covered if you have that many officers on leave?
We have, it is a strain for the department, but we're able to give Stockton Public Safety Services. We've called in off-duty officers. We have people working on overtime. Other agencies have offered assistance, so if we have to go into that mode, we're ready and prepared to do that. So we do have public safety covered as we investigate this.
How many people were in the bank at the time, and how did they select the 3 hostages?
That information I do not know, or I'm not prepared to give at this point.
Chief, how many officers are on administrative leave? More than 6 or 10? Can you give us some sort of roundabout number? I know that people are wondering about that.
Yeah, I'm prepared to say over 20 officers are on paid administrative leave.
Chief, have you ID'd the fatal victim, and what's the condition of the other 2 victims?
So the of the 3 hostage or civilians,
Yes.
The other 2 are expected to survive. It is the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Coroner's Office responsibility to actually release information on them, so I'm not able to give that information. The only information, personal information I can give is the surviving suspect, which I did.
And are these the same guys that you released images of at the same bank in January? You sent really good shots of these guys in January, the suspects at the time. Can you stand here and say they are absolutely not them, or they may be them?
They may be them. What I mean by that is that's under investigation, not only for that robbery, but also other robberies. We have to look and see, were they responsible and or are they connected to other robberies? That's all part of our ongoing investigation.
How many times did that bank?
Thank you. That's going to conclude our press conference.
Thank you, everybody. I
Thanks for
appreciate
coming.
being here.
Thank you.